And guys, welcome back to the Cycle Sunday podcast. But this is now episode 1 of season 2 because this evening Cycle Sunday returned to YouTube. I reckon. Have you got anything warm there? Like, I don't know, a pint of beer, glass of wine.
Well, should we be properly honest to our viewers?
Go on then.
Right.
We're always honest.
Yeah,
Every time.
we are. This is Sunday morning.
Yes.
And I think we should do a little bit of a coffee chink.
Hey, I like your cup. You like your cup, mate?
I know. How do?
Pop band colour.
Yes.
Yes, no, it is Sunday morning. The podcast is being recorded, and then I'll need to edit it and get it uploaded by this evening at 6 o'clock. And you are at home. We've never seen you at home before. Because suddenly we went, oh my goodness, we haven't recorded the supporting podcast. And we haven't had a podcast for a couple of weeks. And the main reason for that, well, there's two reasons. The first one we missed was because we were actually at the bike shop. I travelled all the way up, and we did have a plan to record a live podcast together for the first time forever. Bear with me just 1 second. I just need to do something like, turn my actual light.
Right. Well, I'll carry on then. So we were planning on doing. Peter was planning on coming up, and it ended up being. If you watch Peter's £60,000 Ford Transit video. It will explain everything. And by the way, that is a fabulous video. Really, really enjoyable. And
it's done like 40-odd thousand views in the first week.
It doesn't surprise me. It's brilliant. And the other thing that you guys have to watch is Peter's NC 500, so the North Coast 500 videos. It is absolutely not only spectacular from a filming perspective, but I think it's just done in such a wonderful way. I was just captivated for the entire film. So well done on that, Pete. That looked brilliant. But yeah, so
kind of you,
mate. No. It's credit where credit's due. It was absolutely brilliant. But I thoroughly enjoyed the transit video. But you'll find out in the transit video just what Pete and Dan's problems were. It was 10 hours. 10 hours on Saturday. And frankly, so the plan was on the Saturday evening of the first day of production, we were going to record a live podcast, which was going to be really good. We were dead excited to do it. And then we were going to go out for a curry.
Yeah.
Then it took 10 hours for Pete and Dan to get up in the van. So we just did the curry. So
and it was good. I enjoyed the curry. But so that's the first reason why we did. And then the following week, I was on holiday in Tenerife. So Tracy and I went away for the last week. So I took literally a week off. I did a lot of editing, but I didn't do any filming at all. So that's why we've missed a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
and then it suddenly dawned on me and you, I think pretty much at the same time yesterday evening. Yeah. Hold on a minute. Cycle Sunday starts tomorrow. We haven't recorded the podcast. So that's why we're doing it Sunday morning.
Yes.
So it's all good.
Yeah.
But if you have tuned in now, hopefully, it's been a while since we've done one of these in support of an episode of Cycle Sunday on my YouTube channel. And for me, the episode that went live tonight is the one that I've been looking forward to the most, and I think quite a lot of people following Cycle Sunday have as well. Yeah. And that is actually building the bike that you can just see over my shoulder. You've just got the hoods and the handlebars if you're watching this on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be quite nice just to have a bit of a chat about the process we went through to make that video, because it was, I think, filming wise, it was the most ambitious filming that I think I've done on my channel, actually.
Yeah.
And the edit was really, really difficult. But because we had a style that we wanted to try, not to copy, but there's a guy on YouTube called G Milner.
Yeah, fabulous.
And he does these bike build videos. He's got over 800,000 subscribers, and his videos do like 2.5 million views or something.
Yeah.
But the style of what he does is just so relaxing to watch.
Yes.
We kind of wanted to try and take a little bit of that. So the really interesting thing, though, Paul hasn't actually seen the video as we're recording this podcast. So he's just hoping that I've managed to pull it off.
Yeah.
I think I have. But what we did was that. So the actual build. I guess maybe we should just take a step back. I'm sure many of the people listening know all the woes and worries that we've had over the last 8 months or so. But we started this project back in January. I had a bike fit in your old shop before you moved to your new premises.
Yeah.
And we did a frame up custom build of, just my dream bike, really, a Bianchi Oltre XR4. And right from the get go, we wanted to build a bike that had all the very top level equipment on it, but in the process, talk about just, yes, we've built an incredibly expensive bike, but we've talked about stuff that's relevant if you're buying a bike that costs 800 quid. So
Yeah.
we've gone through all of the different, getting the right frame size and how important wheels are and the different types of group set that you can buy. We've talked about e-bikes and all those types of things, but ultimately this whole project for me was about building the bike that's just sat behind me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, although we ordered all the bits way back at the beginning of the year, late February, the bike industry, along with many other industries, has a real logistical supply problem at the moment.
Yeah.
And the biggest part of or the biggest impact would be if you are building a frame up custom build and buying all the bits separately.
Do you know what? Just to interject there,
Yeah.
we wouldn't start this project today. So it's getting worse. Just physically getting hold of full and complete drivetrains, unless the expectation was laid out that it was going to be an 8 to 12 month process, just getting everything together. Unless we agreed that, yeah, okay, that's fine. That's what the timeline is. And what can we do to infill thereafter? We wouldn't take the project on again. It's not getting any better.
I mean, I guess, that doesn't mean you can't have a bike like mine behind me, because you can order from the various manufacturers, Bianchi or Trek or whoever, a bike that's already made with the group set and spec from factory.
Correct. Yes, and that is what we are doing at the moment. And if it's physically on order as a complete bike, then we can take an order for it. But and also Trek doing their Project One custom bike project process, we can do that with whatever lead time. But some of those are getting upwards of a year.
Wow.
Yes.
I mean, the reason we did the whole custom build for me is because I'm an awkward size, right? I've got very long legs. I've got quite narrow shoulders. So the things that were important for the bike behind us or me rather, is, for example, as a byproduct of the fit jig process, it's got different handlebar size than standard. It's got shorter cranks than standard. And those are the luxuries you have if you do a frame up custom build. If you're a generic size, then you don't really need to worry about that so much. You can just buy a bike straight from Trek or from Bianchi or from whoever.
And if just to make it clear, we can do all of that sort of stuff on a generic bike as well. So we can take a bike and if you've got somebody like Peter, you need this frame size, but the bar width isn't going to be right for you. There is processes we can put in place to ensure that you've got the right bar width. Without doing all the jig stuff and that sort of thing. Don't. The key thing is never sort of overthink it. The bike manufacturers are pretty good nowadays. If we've got, as we've said right in video one, what we focus on now to get people bikes, just because of the scale and the volume. But don't forget, our business is completely different to what it was when we first met. We were, we were a small footprint bike shop selling X number of bikes a year. Today, we are a much larger scale bike shop, which has got a much larger footprint with a national delivery service, and and supply chain issues that's out there as well. So our model has changed over the time. Our care to the customer and ensuring that we get the right inseam and overall height to make sure your frame size is correct, that hasn't changed. But it's one of those things that we simply just don't have the time to be able to do these really in-depth processes at the moment. But it's not sacrificing the quality of service level that you get either. Yeah, it's interesting.
So we managed to get all the
Yeah.
bits.
Yes.
And then which they drip fed through. We didn't get anything for a couple of months at all, and then slowly but surely. And the bit that surprised me, actually, I thought the groups, because it was the group set that we were really held up by. We quite quickly got the frame and the wheels and the tubeless tires and all those types of things. In fact, we did videos of that in series 1. We joked we had the world's most expensive balance bike. But I thought the group set would just come in one box, but it didn't. It came in little bits and bobs over a course of probably 3 months, I think, by the end of it. So we got all the bits, and we got your wonderful technician, Steve, to come in on his day off and build the bike. The bit that amazed me, and hopefully people will see it in the video, but what people won't see in the video, because the video is like 24 minutes long,
right?
What they won't see is that build process took 2 days.
Yes.
Now, it wouldn't take 2 days normally, because normally Steve wouldn't have a camera stuck in his face for the whole time, which slowed things down quite a lot. But it was a lengthy process, and the way we wanted to film it, because that's what we thought we'd talk about really in this podcast, is that I came up to Edinburgh on Saturday. We know, having talked about it already, I got there much later than planned. But we'd planned 2 days of filming, Sunday and Monday, because that's when your bike shop is not open.
Yeah.
So it gives you time and scope. And then I was going to drive home on Tuesday. And the original plan, bearing in mind, it wasn't just building the Ultra XR4. In season 2, I'm going to pick up my new mountain bike, my Trek Rail 9.5, and we got some stuff around Mrs. Petroped's e-bike. So we had 7 episodes to film in 2 days, which, although quite a bit of it we'd already filmed. So there was one episode on gravel bikes. Most of it was filmed 4 months ago. We just needed to do the intro and the outro. So it wasn't like we had to film completely 7 episodes, but we had a lot of filming to do. So we put a schedule together of how we were going to do that, and we storyboarded the 7 episodes of Cycle Sunday. So we knew what we had to film, and we ticked off each bit we filmed. We ticked it off to make sure we filmed everything. And actually, we only missed one thing. You don't know that yet, but we'll chill. And Dan, who came up with me, so one of his roles was, which I don't know whether he quite knew what he was getting himself in for, was we wanted him to film the build.
Yeah.
Now, normally when I film stuff, I just use in fact, I've got it right next to me by complete coincidence. I just use my little handheld camcorder for most of my videos that I make for my main YouTube channel. Paul is a bit of a camera junkie and aficionado, so has more camera equipment than London Camera Exchange.
No idea how to use it.
But so one of the really nice things is Paul's got a really lovely camera and a stabilization gimbal. So we gave Dan that and asked him to film the whole process of Steve making the bike. We mentioned that took 2 days. It generated over 60 gigabytes of data.
Is that right?
That's just the stuff that Dan filmed with Steve. And by the way, that's just in HD. So what we didn't do was film in 4K.
Yes.
So imagine if we'd have filmed in 4K, we'd have had over 200 gigabytes of raw footage. And I often get asked questions, why don't I film in 4K? And my 2 answers are quite simple. I'd love to. but two simple answers. One, it generates a massive amount of data,
Yeah.
and two, most people watch it on a smartphone. So it
Yes.
kind of so
Yeah.
I know some people watch my stuff on a telly on the wall in their lounge, but
Yeah.
a lot of people don't. So
Yeah,
anyway,
and I
so
think that
huge
that'll
amounts
be
of data.
that'll be a nice little. So I was watching a YouTube video on the new DJI Mavic 3 drone,
Yes,
and
that came out yesterday.
that came out yesterday, and the cine version of that drone has now got 1 terabyte of internal storage. 1 terabyte, just because it's got a 46-minute flight time, and with three batteries, you can then get nearly 2 hours of flight time with it. But it
Yeah.
needs a terabyte of storage because it films now in 5.1K. So I mean, I I upload videos to YouTube. You do that as a job.
Mm.
And you know what it's like when you're uploading, say, for example, you've got a file size, so a video file size of maybe, what does it work out to be? About sort of 18 to 19 gig in that region. If it's a 20 odd minute video, that can take a
Yeah,
couple of hours to process.
I upload them overnight, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah.
I set them going before I go to bed,
Yes.
and then schedule them the next morning.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, it's so we had a lot of data, and then so the build itself. The G Milner guy we mentioned before, he does this really lovely, just no talking, just a little bit of background music, and
Yeah.
we kind of did that style. But what I also wanted to do, because I wanted to try and explain the different steps. So because for me there were some key parts of that build that really blew me away. I mean the high risk part
Mm.
was cutting off the top of the steerer tube
Yeah.
because that's a one shot wonder, right? The
Yeah.
fork and steerer tube is a one piece carbon component, and it
Yeah.
costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Um, the routing of all the internal cables was
Mm.
just amazing, and the little tricks of the trade and stuff were really cool. The setting up of the electronic shifting. So we've kind of punctuated the video with just so people know what's going on, but hopefully people like it. It's a very different style for the channel. I'm actually, it was a very, very difficult edit, because not difficult in terms of the technical bit of dropping it into the editing software. It was going through all of the raw footage
Yeah.
and deciding which bits to use. So,
Yes.
there might be a 2-minute video file where Steve's doing something, and in that 2 minutes there might be 4 seconds that I've used,
Yeah.
just the really the where the camera's in sharp focus and it's just right, and
Yeah.
and that took a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like I was on holiday and I was doing it. Started doing it on the plane on the way home, and I got into a real groove, and then my Mac ran out of battery with an hour to go of the flight, which really annoyed me.
Oh no. So how do you start with that process? Do you? I think this is quite interesting from a viewer perspective. We talk about
Yeah,
the bikes and we talk about this that, and the other. We never talk about how how these videos get to the telly.
yeah,
So so if you've got 60 gig of data,
yeah,
and therefore X number of hours of footage time, but you're
yeah,
only using maybe 2 to 4, maybe 6 seconds of that 2 minute file.
yeah.
What from a creative point of view, what is it that you're looking for in that shot? And then how do you piece that all together to give the viewer everything that they need to see, nothing that
Mm.
they don't need to see, and everything's all crisp? I'm fascinated.
Yeah, so I guess there's a few things a couple of the steps we did together, actually. So I think some of the videos I make for YouTube, I don't storyboard. I just got what I call gun and run. I just make
Yeah,
them and sort it out later.
yeah,
But for Cycle Sunday, we storyboarded, and when I say storyboard, I don't mean, if you look at a storyboard for something like a TV show or a movie, it's literally frame by frame,
yeah,
sketched out. It's not that complicated. It's more of a list of bullet points, the kind of the different bits you want in the video and how that video is going to flow and like the name suggests, what the story for the video is going to be. So we'd kind of done that. So there'd be an intro with me and you, and then the build itself punctuated by me explaining little bits, and then the end of the video was going to be me and you with the bike just summarizing the bike. So you kind of have that in your head.
Yeah.
The next thing for me, and interestingly, you mentioned the North Coast 500 videos because it was the same for those. The fundamental or the most important bit was the music.
Right.
So I've got a copyright free music service that I am subscribed to, because when you use music on YouTube, you can't use well known music because the algorithms in YouTube, the second they're uploaded, will spot if you used, I don't know, an Ed Sheeran track or something.
Yeah.
You'd get demonetized straight away. So you have to use copyright free music.
Yeah.
Which is challenging because actually sometimes you think a song. I remember a few years ago I did I think it was when I went to Turin, and I thought, I've got to have Days Like This by Matt Monro, and that's the song I wanted, but you can't use that because it's got copyright.
Yeah.
So I went into my music library and I wanted the video to be about 20 minutes to 25 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I found 4 tracks of music, each one sort of 3.5 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I downloaded those first, and then I just start going through and finding bits. And what I'll normally do is drop all the bits into the timeline of the editing software that I want, and then if it lines up with the music, happy days, I've been lucky. If not, I need to maybe start trimming things back.
Yeah.
And then I'll put it all together and kind of see how long that ends up being.
Yeah.
And if it's the right kind of length, I'll fine. If not, I'll go back in and chop bits out.
Fantastic.
And the interesting thing with what Dan had shot was, so little things like bleeding the brakes. So Dan had shot footage bleeding the rear brakes and footage bleeding the front brakes.
Yeah.
Well, a watcher doesn't need to watch both of those because the process is the same.
Yeah.
So you just look at which one's the best.
Yes.
Putting the bar tape on. There was great shots of putting the bar tape on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. We don't need both. You just put one on. So putting the rotors on the wheels, you only need to see that once.
Yes.
So it's that kind of thing, really. And what I found really interesting, and you make stuff for your YouTube channel, and you'll know this. If you film it, you have a much more or a bigger emotional attachment to the footage, and it's much harder to ditch stuff.
Right.
If you're editing stuff that you didn't film, frankly, you don't really care. If you don't leave a bit out, or might not even know it's there.
That's interesting.
When I'm filming, I'll get a bit of footage and go, footage is ace, And then when it comes into the edit and you think, I've got to get rid of it, I'll think, it's really good though. I want to keep it in.
Yeah.
And one of the things I found working in Vintage Voltage with the TV guys, the guys that do the editing, they have no emotional attachment to what's shot at all.
Yeah.
All they're interested in is that episode's got to be 45 minutes long.
Right.
And they're brutal. We'll go for a whole day's filming on a process, and they'll just miss the whole day of filming out because they've got too much footage. And I'm like, hold on, I was in that. I don't care. So that for me, actually, for anybody creating video is don't be too emotionally attached to the footage, because, to be quite frank, the watcher will never know that footage ever existed, so they won't miss it.
Sure.
So that's what I did, and I was very. And sometimes the music works, and some you put it together and you think, I'm really, really pleased with that. Sometimes it doesn't. When I did the North Coast 500 videos, one of the bits of music, when I listened to it before I downloaded it, I thought, that, and I'm trying to visualize the images and what I want. I thought that's going to work, and then I put it into the timeline and dropped it in with the video, and it just didn't work. Right. So I went and found another piece.
Well, that's fascinating.
So that's the process, really, and sometimes this one was for me. I'm excited by it, and I really love for people who are listening to this to let us know what you think, because it's a very different kind of video. The quality of the footage that Dan took is excellent. That camera that you've got, which one is the GX
Now, do you know, this is going to sound terrible. I'm rubbish with the names, but it's the latest Sony vlogging
Yeah,
camera. It's
yeah,
like
it's
the ZV-10 or something like that.
yeah.
They did one.
Google it.
Yeah, I've got it in the van. But yeah,
But what it?
yeah, so they did one about a year and a half ago that didn't have a changeable lens on it, and what they decided to do was they just wanted a very basic stripped back vlogging camera that it doesn't even have a viewfinder. It's really light. It's really easy to just literally set up. And one of the reasons, and then they launched this new one a few months ago, which then had the interchangeable lens. So I looked
Yeah,
at it and I just thought, do you know what? I really like that because whilst I enjoy the process of taking photos and doing these YouTube videos and what have you, I've got zero knowledge or talent when it comes to setting up a camera. So somebody talks to me about the exposure triangle. I actually think that that's something rude. But so it's one of those things that I wanted a camera that was just an idiot can pick it up and deliver decent footage at 1080p and at 4K. And the 4K aspect to not be too cropped in, because that's what a lot of people don't realize on the smaller cameras. The moment that you go into 4K, it crops in so tight that you don't really have a reasonable sort of working window to operate in. So that was a really nice thing about this new camera. And it wasn't too expensive. And when I've got some more money and need so, I can upgrade the lenses to it to get a different type of shot and a different type of film. But one of the
mm,
features that it has on is because I'm wanting to do more informational videos for our Criterion Cycles YouTube channel. So things like, what's the difference between this GoPro and that GoPros? I'm looking at a GoPro. What's the difference between this Garmin and that Garmin?
yeah,
I want to be able to do a nice vertical shot of just my hands with the product in my hands and be able to talk through the
mm,
differences in that product. So it's handy for the customer making their choices and of what product's going to be right for them. And it's got a lovely little feature which is uh, basically as you're putting it focuses on the object automatically as opposed to the autofocus trying to search out for what it thinks you want it to look at. So
yeah,
it's called a product feature, and the nice thing is it's one button, so you just push that button and it does it. So it's a real stripped back simple product, but it also, because it is effectively a compact camera, it then mounts brilliantly into my Ronin RSC2, which is that
yeah,
three-axis stabilization gimbal. And that
yeah.
bit of kit, I mean, that was a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. I mean, as a combination of just give you an idea of the production value that goes into it. Just that gimbal and the camera is 1,200 quid. So before
Yeah.
we start delivering you any form of footage, before we start talking into microphones, before we start shooting on 3 or 4 different cameras, just the pictures of that bike that Steve was building, there was 1,200 quid's worth of equipment. So
Well, and the main camera we
yeah,
use, which is yours actually, when we're up in the shop, is like 2.5 grand.
correct. Yeah,
So no, so but it gives this really lovely shallow depth of field.
yeah,
So and sometimes, I mean, yes, you can get shallow depth of field just by the right aperture setting
yeah,
and so on. And like you said, that's where you start getting into a professional
yes,
photographer or videographer would do
yeah,
that. But it's kind. It's, I guess the best way to describe it actually, it's like portrait mode on an iPhone,
yes,
pretty
yes,
much.
yes,
Okay, but it gives you this sharp image where you're looking, and then it blurs out the background. And so that footage, the way it's come out, is just really nice. And actually, for me, it's kind of made me think, "Ugh,
mm,
I should probably think about spending some more
yeah,
money and get the same rig, because it was the quality of the video work is really,
Yeah,
really
well,
good.
that shallow depth of field effect is what's called bokeh, not bokeh, but bokeh. And it's what videographers are all raving about at the moment. That shallow depth of field where you've got a really sharp image at the front, and then it's a blurry background. You'll just hear it on every
Yeah,
single YouTube. It's a blurry background. Well, on
yeah,
that camera, that is one button as well. So you
yeah, yeah,
press a button to say, "Give me a blurry background and a sharp frontal image," and
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
I love about it.
Yeah, no. So it was good. So that was the kind of the editing and stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing the feedback from
Yeah.
people. The next thing we should probably have a chat about is the bike itself.
That's actually what
Because
people want to
I'm
listen to, right?
seriously. If I mean it blew me away watching it being put together, and I'd seen other Ultra XR4s in the
Yeah,
shop with a similar
yeah,
spec, but none of them had had the Campag Super Record EPS group set, which on its own is a thing of
yes.
beauty. But just every element of the bike, and keep looking over my left shoulder because it's literally behind me. I'm not quite sure where it's going to live yet. It was meant to go on that wall behind me, but it's too
Oh,
big,
really?
so I'm having to kind of. Yeah, well, I need a different mount, a different wall mount. The mount I've got brings it out from the wall, and it would literally be right over my head when I'm on my sit,
Right,
which wouldn't be good.
right.
So at the moment, it's just living on the floor. Um, yeah, but no, it's a stunning thing. I still haven't actually ridden it yet, even though I've had it. Well, obviously I was away on holiday,
Yeah,
but the reason I haven't, I nearly did yesterday, but I want to film my first
okay.
ride. I don't want to go out and ride it and then film my first ride after I've already ridden it, if that makes sense. So it's got to be dry, and it wasn't quite dry enough yesterday. And I need someone to help me because I want to get some tracking footage. Because one of the things we should mention in the video that went up tonight is that the plan was to, when we were up in Edinburgh, to build the bike on the
Mm,
Sunday and then go out and do filming of me riding the Ultra XR4 and my new rail on Monday. And I don't know how we ever thought that was going to happen because we didn't finish both bikes until like late Monday, and it was raining and dark by
yes.
that time.
Yeah,
So I'm hoping because next week is the first ride video,
right.
so I need to film that this week during the
Yeah.
week. On next week's episode, this is the bit we kind of forgot to film. We were meant to film the intro of it between us, but we kind of forgot.
Well,
But
let's do it
we'll
now.
make yeah, we will. Don't worry, we'll do another one. Don't worry, we might do it midweek. Um, um, yeah, so I'm going to talk through the little details because we summarized it at the end of the video and talked basically about the wheels and the tires and the group set and stuff. But there are so many little details on this bike, so many little beautiful things. The way that the stub axle, the little retain, the thing that is just what you'll know what it's called, the little spindle
Yeah,
that you undo the
yeah.
stub
Let,
axle
let, let me
fits
let me
back
help you
into.
out. So so so
Yeah,
the through axle that basically retains the wheel
yeah,
on the frame and the fork has got
yeah,
a tiny. Obviously, you need a lever to be able to take it off. Some manufacturers, they don't have any levers. It's just got a 6mm Allen key head that you put your multi-tool in. They work great as well. But again, just on that Ultra, they've just got a sliding retractable lever. So it's nice and home when you're riding. But when you need to
it's
take it
so
off, you don't
cool.
need to get a multi-tool out. The lever's there. It's just lovely little details.
Yeah. Things like that, and just I'm learning. One thing I have done, I've modified it already. So it now, no, it
Head in
now,
hands.
no, 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 no. It has a Garmin speed
Oh,
sensor
okay.
um, on the rear wheel. I put one of the little hub-mounted ones. I ordered that, and it
Yeah.
arrived yesterday. And it's got a Garmin
Yeah.
cadence sensor on the non-drivetrain side
Yes. Yes.
crank.
Perfect.
Um, so they're super easy. They just wirelessly connect to my
Yeah.
Garmin head unit. But I'm a big, I like riding to
Yes.
cadence. So I like to see what my
Yeah.
cadence is. So those two things were super easy. They basically they don't stick on. They've got these little rubber
Yes.
attachments that attach them
Yeah.
to the bike. So I put those on last
Great.
night, which is very exciting. Even I could do that. And I also have, although they haven't arrived yet, but they have been ordered, a little decal with my name and the Union flag on it to put on there as well. So that will be going on at some point as soon as they arrive. But yeah, no, you look round and you just look at the little details, and so I want next week. I'm just going to just walk around the bike in a bit more detail, I think, and look at, if you look at the detail in the rear mech, the detail on the actual chain rings, and the carbon fiber, the style of carbon fiber on that chainring and crank is just it's just lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna do that, and obviously take it out for a bit of a spin, and that I can't wait for that really, because I need to do and we talked about this when we put the tubeless set up. I need to just spin the wheels around, make sure the sealant agent in there is correct. Ride up the road, come back, check it. Ride up the road, come back, check it, just to make sure that beds in correctly.
The way of doing that, just put your truck. Flipping out, I can't talk. Put your track pump. Seriously, that wasn't easy to say. Just on the inside of your gate at home, and then just, as you quite rightly say, just ride up to the top of the road and then back, and then you've got your track pump there, so you're not having to go up your scrunchy drive.
Yeah, I don't scrunchy drive. I don't cycle up my scrunchy drive on my road bike. That's lethal. It's bad enough on a mountain bike, but on a road bike, it is properly sketchy. Because interestingly, the rail, which is also set up tubeless, I got that out yesterday to show my next door neighbour, and the rear tire had kind of deflated, so I just pumped it back up again, and because I hadn't done that setup process. But it's quite funny though. I let him ride up my garden and back, and he came back and went, "That cost me a lot of money." He's going to buy a new mountain bike. I'll put him in touch.
Brilliant.
So first ride's going to be very exciting, and the challenge is, and I think this, because of the time of year, I can't see the bike being ridden massively over the winter. I'll take it out if it's so, like today, it's a nice dry day, but I don't want to get salt and road grime and crap on it, and I certainly don't want to get it wet too much. And I know that sounds like I'm being a bit of a wuss with it, but it's a very, very expensive bike. And if you've watched the video, we kind of talk about how much it costs, but the chain and the cassette and all of those things, they're very, very expensive bits. So I don't really want to get them dirty and get them wet, and it will be a sunny day bike.
Yeah, and it's and don't forget, you've got the perfect fleet of bikes. So you've got your full you've got your full suspension. You've got your full suspension mountain bike to go and do proper mountain bike stuff. You've got your gravel bike that you can use on wet and minging days, and then you've got your nice summer road bike, and you use them.
And I've got
you've got your e-bike, so you just use them in your at the correct times in the correct way. It's great.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So it's a pretty special thing. So I guess that pretty much was the whole point of, not the whole point of Cycle Sunday, but the thing we were building up to was building the bike, and to finally get it built was something else. I think that the interesting thing for me, just to go back to the build process, was how skilled Steve was, and how you could just every step of the way, watching the footage back, just little things, and it doesn't sound much, but it's a lot. Little things like how he applied the grease to the various components, and how he put things out and measured them and checked them, and dummy fitted them, and then checked them again, and then fitted them, and it's all that little bit. And one of the things that we were talking at the end, and I hadn't even thought about it, but I think it's really important, especially kind of for you from the bike shop side of things, is I said your care and attention to detail is just amazing. You bled I think you bled the brakes like 4 times or something. And then he went, yeah, but you could be doing 50 mile an hour down a mountain and pull the brakes on, and if they don't work, it's my fault.
Yes.
And I'm like, I thought about that. and that's
Yeah,
a really
very
big
much
thing,
so.
right?
And you know, it's you talk about applying the grease. Well, you know, somebody listening to this goes, "Well, I know how to apply grease." It's not just knowing how to apply grease; it's knowing what lubricant to apply. When does it need to be greased? When does it
Yeah.
need to be anti-seize? When does something need to be thread locked? How much thread lock? Which thread lock do you use? Is it you know? And how much do you need to put on? I mean, in your bottom bracket bearings, they're ceramic. They're not steel, so they're proper ceramic ball bearings. We don't grease those; you oil them, but you have to oil them with an oil that's specifically designed for oiling ceramic grease bearings. And so
Yeah.
it all sounds really easy, and everybody goes, "Oh, I could build that in in my own shed." And if somebody's capable of doing that, that's fantastic. But the amount of people who get fundamental stuff wrong, and we see it day in, day out when
Mm.
bikes come in for service, or somebody comes in and says, "Oh, could you just check that because I've just made that modification?" You just go, "How? Why?" Um, so
Mm.
yeah, I mean, Steve's been building bikes for decades, and and the
Mm.
thing is that whilst bikes have changed, the fundamentals of what is correct, what isn't correct, still maintained and still there. But these guys are also, they're constantly developing. So we have to, for Super Record EPS, for example, two people went down to Leighton Buzzard to Chicken Cycle Kit to get a day's training on Campag EPS. So,
Yeah.
so that was a flight down to Leighton Buzzard. The guys from Chicken picked us up, and then we basically had a full session with the guys from Campag of how to
Yeah.
install, update, do the firmwares, the My Campy apps, the rights, the wrong, the troubleshooting, all of that sort of stuff gets done. Well, you don't get that if you just order a box online and go and build it in your shed.
And the other thing as well is, even Steve said, he said he's been building bikes for decades, but he doesn't build many bikes with
No,
Campag Super Record EPS because the group set's four and a half
yes, that's
thousand
right.
pounds.
That's right.
So it's not something you
No,
order very often. So he was actually, what was really lovely, he was actually really quite excited to
yes,
build a bike with Campag Super Record EPS and kind of
yes,
see it finished. And that made it even more special for me, I
yes,
think, just to and it was like, and this might sound really ridiculous and definitely coming from someone who doesn't have kids, but it was like watching one of your children being born. Basically, you've got this, we'd go off and do some filming and he'd come back and more stuff would be on it and
yeah,
he'd be like, oh wow, and then the bit that got me was the once all the wires and the hydraulic cables were in the
yeah,
handlebars, and there was just this spaghetti of what I'm thinking, wow, you know, and they all kind of fed through, and it was
yes,
just amazing,
yes,
absolutely amazing. Uh, and I didn't realize, and the little magnet tool that you use to pull the. I'm hoping when you watch the video, you can see it a couple of times because some one of the questions I'm expecting is how do you get the
yeah,
cables to go through
yeah,
the little holes and stuff when you stick them in one end of a frame and it's got to pop out a hole at the other end of a frame
yeah,
2 feet away, and you've got this little magnet and you can kind of pull the wire through
yeah,
using the magnet, which is really cool. And you use lots of, if you like, dummy cables. I can't remember what you called them now, but
yeah,
feed a
yeah.
cable through or a wire through first.
No,
A dolly
we
was it,
refer
or
to them as straws. So yeah, so you
yeah,
can pre-place some of the cable runs, and then you attach those cable runs to the actual cable itself, and then and then you can pull it through. So yeah, there's a lot
yeah,
of preparation and almost it's actually quite a nice uh, sort of put together. So when we were talking earlier about you seeing your edit of a film sort of almost in advance, that's what it's almost like a game of chess. You have to look 3 to 5 moves ahead, not just at what you're doing at that
yeah,
moment in time. And that's what Steve
yeah,
or any professional bike builder is doing. They're not looking at, oh, I need to feed that cable through there. They're looking at you're looking at how do you feed that through.
Oh no.
You're not looking at basically the as a professional bike builder, you're not looking at one section. You're looking at the finished article, and if I put that cable through now, is that going to cause me an issue later? So a professional bike builder actually sees the finished bike before they start building it.
Yeah, and that because the one of the bits, it was really funny because when we started, we had everything
Yeah.
laid out on the floor, and you just think, where do you start? What's the first thing going to be? And the first thing
Yeah.
was putting a seat tube in so that you could put it on the bike stand. So you could then work on the frame. And you're like, oh, okay. But that seat tube came in and out about 5 times because underneath the seat tube is where the battery goes for the electronic gear system. So you put it in and then you have to take it out. The same thing for, I think the wheels went on and off about 3 times. And it was just really interesting. This process. It's like the most complex game of Tetris ever.
No.
But
Yeah.
it was fascinating to watch, and I hope that the video that we put out gives people an insight into the world of quality professional
Yes.
bike building, because it was something to watch. And I know Dan, when we were driving home, he just said that he was encapsulated by it, and it's a shame in a way we couldn't just have the film that's like 2 days long so you could see it all. But I'm hoping I've kind of condensed that into like 20 minutes, and people will get a feel for it. But it was incredible. So there we go. So she's named
Bella.
She's called Bella. Ciao Bella. She even has a profile on
really?
Strava already. So I've put her in my garage on Strava. She's not got any miles yet, but I like to keep a good track of all the miles on my bikes on Strava. So she's on there. So yeah. So what's next? Well, as I said, the next episode of Cycle Sunday, I'm going to go for my first ride and kind of just talk through my impressions really. And one of the things I'm hoping that people will find interesting is, to many people, my current road bike is a high end road bike. It's an aero bike. It's got electronic shifting. It's got carbon. Well, they're not carbon wheels. They've got carbon fairings on the wheels, but deep rim wheels. And it's a high end bike. However, I was working out yesterday. It's 8 years old. And I think it's going to be there's going to be so many differences between my current bike and Bella. The age difference, 8 years is a long time in terms of bike technology. So that evolution of bike technology, I think, will be fascinating. It'll be interesting to compare the two electronic shifting mechanisms, because I've got a Di2 Ultegra from Shimano, which is their kind of one from top set. This is the top one that Campag make. So we're not quite comparing apples with apples, but it'd be quite interesting to look at the difference. The big difference is the Bianchi's running on 28mm tubeless setup, whereas I'm running on 25mm tubed. That'd be quite interesting. But the bit I'm really excited to talk about, and I think we've mentioned it before, is the bike behind me. Not only is very stiff laterally, but it's got this countervail material in the frame, and that is something that only Bianchi has. And the whole point about countervail is to cancel out a lot of the vibrations that you get on a really stiff road bike.
So it eliminates around sort of 70 to 80% of harmonic vibration. So it just, when you're riding over a slightly rougher road surface or a slightly open course tarmac, that constant sort of buzz that you get through the bars, the pedals, and the saddle. It eliminates a lot of that while still keeping the weight of the bike down, but also with no loss to stiffness to the bike. So it's a fabulous thing.
Yeah. While we're on that subject, I'm sure, well, hopefully lots of people have watched the episode first and come here. But if you haven't watched the episode,
Yes.
you've just mentioned weight. We should probably mention weight. So the bike came in at 8.15 kilos, which is ridiculous. But as you mentioned in the video, this is a 61 centimeter frame, so it's a big bike.
So we've just also built those of you who follow us on as in Criterium Cycles, follows Criterium Cycles on Instagram and Facebook. We've just also built a Specialissima that's just arrived. So that is that's a 55 centimeter Specialissima, so the non sort of proper aero bike, which has got alloy wheels and the new 12-speed Ultegra Di2. So it's the first 2022 bike that we've had. And we weighed that and we did a photo of that on Instagram because people were asking, and that's 7.51 kilos. And I messaged Pete about that and just said, that's coming at 7.51 kilos. Can you only imagine what that bike would weigh with your Bora WTO wheels and Campagnolo Super Record? Because that's significantly lighter than the kit that's bolted to it. That'd be sub 7 kilos.
I know, but tie it down in a breeze.
It's really light. So this is the thing that people forget about when you're looking at a new bike, is that weight is one aspect to a very complex amount of metrics. It's a lot of people, when they weigh bikes, they're weighing their smallest frame size. Some manufacturers even weigh their bikes with no cables in. Some of them even weigh the bikes with no paint on. So be really, really sort of beady-eyed about weights. The weight of your bike is the weight of your bike. The end. and yeah.
And then the other thing, and I'm pretty sure actually people will probably spot it in next week's video, but the bottle cages on this, someone is bound to say, you spent £13,000 on a bike and you haven't got carbon fibre bottle cages. The challenge is you try and find 2 Bianchi carbon fibre bottle cages in the world.
Yeah.
There just aren't any. So that's why we've not got the carbon fibre bottle cages, people.
Yes.
They still look awesome, bro. And actually, to be honest, they'd probably be nicer to use than the carbon fibre ones because they normally scratch the hell out of a bottle, don't they? So, but yeah, so there you go. So that's next week's video. And then the rest of season 2, I'm hoping people are going to really enjoy the mix of content. We've got some stuff around e-bikes, a couple of e-bike things. You've got your nationwide delivery service, which we won't kind of steal the thunder of that video too much, but that video includes you coming down to my house to deliver Tracy's brand new e-bike. We've got I've bought a Trek Rail 9.5 carbon framed e-mountain bike, and Paul was really mean to me. So I hadn't even seen it, and he dropped me a couple of messages and went, while you're here, there's a couple of upgrades you might be interested in. And I'm like, damn. And then when I got there, I hadn't even ridden it, and he showed me the upgrades, and obviously I had to buy them. So even before it had turned a wheel in anger, my rail got a couple of very tasty upgrades, and I have to say, worth every penny because it makes it so much better. Again, we won't say what upgrades, but it's turned it into quite a special bike. And people might be going, "Hold on, you bought a new bike and you've upgraded it?" The whole point of buying that bike was it's the best frame in the rail series. So it's the carbon fiber frame, but it's the entry level component and group set. So the whole purpose of doing that or buying that bike was that we knew that the
Yeah.
wheels weren't the best wheels you can get, the gears and stuff. So we've just upgraded a couple of things.
And what we're going to do, because Rosie
that.
and I have got exactly the same bikes. So there are 3 rail 9.5 bikes in the family, shall we say, in the Cycle Sunday family, and
Yeah.
all 3 bikes are going to be upgraded to suit the individual rider. So we thought that would actually be quite a nice series segment for Cycle Sunday. So because Pete rides mainly in places like the South Downs, that's not uber technical, his upgrades are going to be appropriate to what he uses it for. Whereas Rosie and me, we ride up in Scotland and we do a little bit more sort of technical trail centre style riding. So we're going to, but Rosie is significantly lighter than I am. So even though we're riding the same...
Most things in the world are lighter than you, to be honest, mate.
Oh, do you know,
small moon.
That's bullying. No, so because Rosie's significantly lighter, there's no point Rosie putting the same brake set that I would need because she's 35 kilos lighter than I am. The suspension that she's going to require is going to be different. So we just thought we're going to bring that as a Cycle Sunday segment as well. So this is actually for me, this has been the real advantage of the time that it's taken to build Bella. Is that it
Yeah,
yeah,
we had to fill in things.
and we as a team, as a collaboration, have thought of even more things that we can do over the years. So it meant that Cycle Sunday wasn't just going to be, buy a custom bike, fit a custom bike, build a bike, and then that's it. You never see anything again. We want this to be a thing. So it's great. We love it.
Yeah. So yeah, no. So that's cool. We've done that. We've got a Christmas buying guide for Christmas prezzies. That's a bit of fun. So we run all the way up till the last Sunday before Christmas. So the next 7 weeks, and then we'll kind of end season 2, and we'll start planning season 3. And when the weather gets a bit better in the spring, we'll start putting some more stuff out. So yeah, but that's it. So
it's exciting.
She's finally here, my baby. Tracy wasn't too pleased. I kicked her out of bed and slept with the bike. But yeah. So.
I think that's what you call TMI.
Anyway. Yes, very much so.
Yes.
Anyway, on that bombshell, we'll bring this one to a close. If you haven't already gone and watched Cycle Sunday on my YouTube channel, please go and do that. If you haven't subscribed to this podcast YouTube channel, please do. Or wherever you're watching or listening to your podcast, on Apple or Google or Amazon, make sure you leave a rating or a review if you're able to do that. And make sure you tune in next week. But for now, I'm going to quickly edit this and upload it in time for tonight. So I'm going to head off. But for now, I've been Pete Greaves.
And I've been Paul Bowker.
Take care, guys, and ride safe.
Ride safe, everyone.